Thanks for clicking and welcome back to Piney Grove. We've got 20 acres here in North Florida that we're turning from wild pine forest into a working homestead, and we're 6 years into that process. And like most country property owners, we want to live harmoniously with the wildlife, but we also want to have a garden, and that presents some challenges. So we're going to talk about how to keep deer out of your garden. And we also have a 1 acre food plot that we are trying to enrich the soil to maybe get into like 1 acre of row crops, like maybe watermelon or cantaloupe in the future. And we'll show you how we keep deer out of large acreage as well. So this is the second year Piney Grove garden. And we actually, I guess, inherited this garden from my dad because he passed away earlier this year. And when we moved him from Virginia to Florida, one of his stipulations for moving was that we have a garden or a garden area for him. This was all pasture land and really hard packed soil. And we got in here with an excavator and dug up the soil, and we put in these 4 posts, and we'll show you why these posts are necessary for the fence that we're going to talk about. So I said these posts, I guess what I meant was any post, because we went way overkill with these posts. They're basically telephone pole size, and we put them in with our compact tractor and a post hole digger and then put them in by hand. But we basically wanted 4 points to anchor our trellis netting. And our trellis netting is this right here. And this is, I don't know if you can call it the secret, but it's how we keep deer out of our garden. So I'm about 6 foot tall, and this trellis material I think is 6'6", and we'll put all the links down below on Amazon. This trellis material I think is around $15 for 50 feet. So this garden's about 50 by 50 by 30 by 30. So we've got about 4 pieces of this netting here. But the netting can't hold itself up. So what we did was we ran a rope or some sort of line across the top and some sort of line across the bottom, and we fastened the trellis material to that rope with what's called hog rings. And we'll show you the pliers and the hog rings that we used. These are the hog ring pliers, and these are the hog rings. And I'll try to figure out what size and let you know down below in the description and in a pinned comment of what size they are. But these are what's used to clamp the trellis netting to the rope, and we'll demonstrate that. Now, many people will say that this is not tall enough, but we have a pretty high deer population here around our property. We've had up to 18 deer at once on a trail cam, in trail cam spread throughout the property, and we've never once had one jump over. Now, if you've got rabbit problems, I don't think this is going to stop a rabbit from going into your garden, but we do have a lot of rabbits here on Piney Grove, and we haven't had any rabbit damage. We've had no wildlife damage of our garden at all, and we're growing things that you wouldn't think would be attractive to deer, but deer love cantaloupe and watermelon. Let me show you our cantaloupe and watermelon. The closest plants are our cantaloupe, the farthest ones are our watermelon, and you see there's no damage at all. And Deb and I tried to plant several rows of these in the back 1 acre plot that we'll take you to in a minute, and we got them up to, I don't know, 3 foot long vines or so, and the deer just came in and just ate them down to nothing, and we didn't get a single watermelon. So down here in this last plant, last night I found a good sized watermelon starting to grow. So there's my hand. And without this netting, we just wouldn't be able to do that. The deer would come right in here and eat all that up. And if you're wondering why there's all these wood chips here, we have really poor soil in North Florida. It's sandy with a little bit of clay, but it really doesn't have a lot of organic matter. And we cleared this land, so it was all planted pine trees just 6 years ago. So this is an experiment. So stay tuned to our channel. We're gonna test this soil and show you what wood chips can do for your soil. We already know it's locking in moisture and it's keeping the soil from eroding because we're on a slight slope here. But this half has not been planted and it's all wood chips. This over here, we did landscaping cloth and burned holes in it for our plants. And then we put wood chips in between to keep the weeds down. Getting back to how to construct this fence, we actually used a small hand winch here to attach our rope to, and that's 100% unnecessary. If we were to do it all over again, we would just go back with hooks like this or some other way to attach the rope to the post. You can see it's just simply knotted to that hook right there. And the original idea was one line all the way around all 4 posts, and then you could lower the line down if you needed to drive over it with the tractor to get in there and till, but that would have required pulleys or some sort of eyelet at all the other posts. So instead we did this. We just terminated the rope on some hooks here, and then when you want to get the tractor in here, and this needs to be pulled a little tighter, you just undo that right there and undo the bottom, and then just swing this out of the way, and that works perfectly fine. You can get in here with a tractor and do your rototilling or whatever you need to do with the tractor, and then put the fence back up quickly. And that's a real simple way to do it. I'm sure that there's other ways you could do it that are a lot more complicated, and maybe they're a little faster, but this works for us. And here's the hog rings that are holding the trellis at the top. About every foot, maybe every 8 inches or so, there's a hog ring that holds the trellis to the rope. And it's really as simple as that. You get some sort of post. You could use 4x4s. You could cut down an oak tree or something. It'll probably last for 5 or 6 years. But get 4 posts on your corner, run this 6.5 foot trellis on something that will support it. And we have some pretty good rope there that's pretty stout, but I also ran it on what we call crab pot line, which is about 1/4 inch rope right here. So this is smaller diameter rope. You can see the hog ring right there just holding the trellis to it. I did this whole end here in probably 30 minutes. So let's show how the hog rings work, and then we'll go to the back pot and show you another version of a deer fence. So right here we have a hole in the fence, and I don't know what caused it. It could have been a weed eater. It could have been something jumped through there like our dog, but for some reason that's come apart. And I'm just gonna use the pliers and the hog rings and fix it. We just open up the hog ring pliers and then put one of these rings in it. So there's the ring inside the pliers. But we'll take this corner here, up here to this corner, squeeze our hog rings together. Now we've closed up that hole. We'll put another one here as well. So it's not pretty, but it closes up the hole, and now that's good to go. And now we'll do the same thing up here just to show you how you connect the trellis to this rope. Just push it all together, squeeze up your hog ring, and it overlaps on the other side. Hopefully you can see that. And you just go down the line and do that. And like I mentioned, this stuff is really cheap, so if you get 5 years or so out of your trellis material, I think you're money ahead. And for the bottom of the trellis, there's also a rope down there, but on this end, because this is how we come in every day to pick vegetables and water the garden, we just took some ripped down 2x4s and threaded them in between the trellis, and that does good at keeping this side of the fence down to keep things from going in, but also to keep the wind from flapping it around, and that works really good. And every night we close it up, we just take the trellis, put on that hook, and that holds it in place. That's a quick, easy, and relatively inexpensive solution for your garden because you're relying on the height and fooling the deer, because a deer can probably jump over 6.5 feet, but we've never had one jump over it. It may be different in your area. Maybe you might have to go a little bit taller, but that has worked for us. So now instead of height, we're gonna go to the back plot and show you how we put up a cheap and effective solution. And we didn't rely on height, but we relied on the depth perception of the deer and fooling them in that way. So this is 1 acre of iron clay peas. And if you're not familiar with iron clay peas, they are something that's routinely planted mainly for wildlife. There's not any nutritional value for humans there. We're not planning on consuming anything out of this field. It was planted to enrich the soil because the beans are a legume and they'll take nitrogen from the air and put it in the soil. And we're just using them to build the soil, but we also want the beans here to feed the wildlife, to feed the deer. But if you let the deer in too early, they will wipe it out. This is 1 acre, and deer need about 1 acre of browse per day. So one deer could eat this whole field in a day when they're really, really short. But they're now starting to be a foot or 18 inches tall. And when they get to about 2 foot tall, then we'll probably let the deer come in here. How are we keeping the deer out? Well, we're not relying on height with this fence, and we're not relying on electricity, but the people that invented this fence, or the first marketed fence out there for a 3D deer fence, I believe was Gallagher And I think Premier Fencing has one now as well. And what they do is they electrify all the lines. This is not electric at all. This is just some wire I hung up. The premise is that deer have a bad depth perception problem. So they come up to this and they know they can jump over this and then go under that, but they don't know the two together that they can do both things. So they come up to here and they think they got to jump all the way over, and their mind fools them and tells them they can't, although they could easily jump over. So the higher one should be about 4 feet. This one should be anywhere from 18 inches to 24 inches. And like I said earlier, they would typically be electrified because eventually a deer is going to figure out that he can jump over here and he can go under that one, and no harm will come to him. But if he were to get electrified out here, he would never try that. I said electrified. I guess I meant shocked, if he were to get shocked. Now I'm going to show you, when I was walking up here, there's deer tracks coming right up to this fence. So right here is a set of deer tracks, right there. And there's the fence right there, the lower wire. And there's the upper wire. And there's all that beautiful greenery. And deer can sense high protein. So they know this is high protein and they want in there, but they're just not ready to chance it yet. I guess if they were really, really hungry and they didn't have anything else to eat, they would probably try it and test it, but they've decided that it's not worth the effort. Now we do have video of deer actually going over and under this fence on the soybeans we planted last year, but those soybeans got to about 6 foot tall before they even tried it. I ran out of wire, so I actually stopped my fake 3D fence right here. So this side is completely unprotected, but I know deer typically don't come through this side of the plot. I know where their main traffic areas are, so with the wire that I had, I put it in those traffic areas. Then I also put some orange tape on it, just so it's a visual barrier as well, in case they didn't see this black wire at night. And last year, I actually did like detergent and ivory soap, and I hung milk jugs with pebbles in it so that in the wind, it would make some noise. But this year I didn't have that kind of time to do all that. We were really rushed here at Piney Grove to get our house built. So I put this up really quick. These posts were left from last year. We've just been planting and working the tractor around them. So I probably put this fence up, because it was recycled from last year. In 30 minutes or less, I probably protected this 1 acre plot. And eventually what I want to do is have wooden corner posts and actually put up a solar powered electric fence, because the deer herd isn't going to get any smaller, and the things that we plant in here, like I talked about earlier, like maybe watermelon or cantaloupe, might be something that's more attractive to the deer than the iron clay peas. But that's in the future. For right now, we're just going with this cheap solution. Those are the two low-cost solutions we use out here at Piney Grove to protect our garden and also this 1 acre field. Hopefully you found this video informative. We'll put links down below to all the products that you can use to do the same thing on your property. But until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.